Good morning. The reading today is from John chapter 13, and we'll be reading verses 1 to 17, and then we'll be reading verses 31 to 38 if you want to follow along with your own Bible. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand." "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." "Then, Lord," Simon Peter replied, "not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus answered, "Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you." For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." And then just moving forward to verse 31. When he was gone, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself, and will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." Simon Peter asked him, "Lord, where are you going?" Jesus replied, "Where I am going, you cannot follow now, but you will follow later." Peter asked, "Lord, why can't I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." Then Jesus answered, "Will you really lay down your life for me? Very truly I tell you, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times."
Hi everyone, good to see you all. I missed you last week, I was away, but it's nice to be back with you. We're in John 13, and I wonder how you're going, day to day these days. It feels like we're in a kind of a strange season where every night you go to bed and you kind of wonder what you'll wake up to the next morning. Unless you've managed to insulate yourself from the news cycle, which I think sounds wiser and wiser. Each day you kind of wake up and you go, all right, what's on the news? What's the developments in the various conflicts around the place? What's the latest thing that the US president has put on social media? How are people responding to all that? And it feels like just a volatile kind of time, doesn't it? You know, what scandals are erupting, what promises are kept, what's happening, who's being drawn into conflict, who's been drawn into a new war of words. And each day is a surprise, if we are still surprised by anything, that is. Now, I kind of really avoid getting political from this platform. As a rule, we're a church that welcomes people from across the political spectrum, and I keep saying our hope is in Jesus, not in Party A or Party B or Leader A or Leader B, or the left or the right or anything like that. I'm intentionally apolitical. However, there's one little political moment which I will dip into a bit this week, and just last Sunday you may have become aware of a picture posted by the US president of an AI-generated picture of himself, which looked remarkably like Jesus, healing someone. Now, whether it meant to look like Jesus or a Red Cross doctor, you can be the judge of that. But I'm interested more in the people's responses to this, because it felt different this time. There was more outrage, more shock, more disappointed. Out of all the things in the last few weeks that is posted, for many this was sent like a bridge too far. Why is that? What was different about this? Why was this an overreach? Now, some will say it's just nothing, it's just a joke or whatever, but it just felt like, even among supporters, that this felt like a different kind of response. It's one thing to depict Jesus as being with you and blessing your actions and your conflicts and all that kind of stuff, but to show yourself to be Jesus, to be the Christ, the Messiah, the healer, that obviously really hit a nerve in our society. But it got me thinking. I thought, in the context of John's Gospel, that we've been thinking about a lot over the last few months, in the context of Easter and thinking about Jesus going to the cross, I kind of saw this little connection, right? See, it's when Jesus starts really clearly saying, I am the Son of God, I'm the heir, he's putting himself on par with God. It's at that moment that people get really, really offended. They're okay with, heal us, give us food, but to claim that you're God really hits a nerve. It gets a huge reaction. People kind of pointing at Trump and shouting, blasphemy, you can't claim to be Jesus. In the same way that, and even more, the crowd pointed at Jesus and the leaders pointed at him and said, blasphemy. Blasphemy, you, a mere man, claim to be God. I think the outrage we see spilled more recently is just a glimpse of the heart of the leaders and the crowd of the time who heard Jesus' claims and were offended by them. And they were so offended by them that we see that they eventually put him on a Roman cross and kill him to die a slave's death. How dare you claim to be what you're not? It's offensive. Now, the difference between the scenarios is the president isn't the Messiah. He's just no, won't go there. But it just not political. It just shows you the scale of the problem, doesn't it? Shows you the scale. If Jesus isn't who he says he is, if he isn't who he says he is, then his claims are incredibly offensive. Almost unhinged maybe. If he claims to be God but isn't, that's not a sane person saying those kind of things. Unless, of course, what he says is true. Now, so Jesus is really unique amongst the religious teachers and the gurus. He makes higher and loftier claims than anyone else does. Not just, I know the truth, let me teach it to you. I am the truth. Not just, I know the way, let me show you. No, I am the way. Not just, I know God, but I am God. This is kind of, you can't really claim much higher than this. The highest, loftiest, most possible claims. And the kind of conundrum we're faced with is we get these claims, but then his actions don't kind of follow up on what we'd expect. I'm your creator, I've shown up, serve me hand and foot, roll out the red carpet, prepare the gala dinner. That's what kind of is reasonable. But Jesus pairs the highest possible claims with the lowest possible actions. We saw him just then kneel, wash his disciples' feet. And then he goes to submit himself to the cross. High claims, lowly actions. It's an apparent contradiction. I only say apparent because I actually think it's one of the most clear proofs that he is who he says he really is. Now, I wonder what you think of when you come to this story of Jesus washing the disciples' feet. For us, it's just a bit strange. We don't tend to let each other touch our feet. That's just weird for us. Now, the touching the feet is not the weird thing for the disciples. They're used to having their feet washed, but this situation is horrific. It should not be Jesus doing it. It's a dusty, it's an arid climate. There's animals wandering around. I don't think there's great sewage systems. You wear sandals, you walk everywhere. This is a formula for stinky, dirty feet. And so, even if you bathed before you left the house, by the time you got to the dinner party, you probably need your feet washed. And it's a sign of hospitality that the host would provide that. But he wouldn't do it himself. He'd get the lowest servant to do it because it was seen as so gross. And yet, as we had read, the master, Lord, the king, the teacher, the rabbi, the guest of honor at this special meal, leaves his place of honor, takes the form of a servant, kneels and washes their feet. Why? Well, he's teaching them a lesson, and he's showing them his love. And actually teaches them lots of lessons, and there's probably more than we'll cover. I was looking, do some research, and I saw someone else preach 3 sermons on this passage. I'm going to just try and do it in one. There's so much in this chapter. But as he teaches them here, he's actually starting, as Fee was saying, a long stretch of teaching. 13 to 17 in John, it's kind of the longest single teaching moment we have of Jesus in the Gospels. And I guess what we're doing here is these 4 chapters or so is kind of like an intensive training moment. Intensive training that he gives his disciples, and it happens on that one night, the night before he's crucified. The hour has come, as he talked about last week. These are his final words. And so what's he doing? He's trying to equip his disciples to continue the work, to kind of process his death and resurrection. He's talking about the helper. He's leaving them. We'll get to that in a few weeks. But if you had this moment, if you knew that you were Jesus and you were going and you had to equip your team to keep going, how would you begin your training intensive? What would you do? Jesus begins by taking off his robe, picking up a bowl and a towel and washing 12 pairs of stinky feet. There's layers of symbolism going on, and there's this clear command at the end to love like this. Love in this way, love in the same foot-washing way. Jesus says, this is how people will know that you're my people, that you are my disciples. This kind of love for each other. I guess, we know that's where it was going, and so the challenge all the time is for us, if we are disciples of Jesus, how do we follow this example? Do we? Can we? Are you? Am I? Think about that as we look at Jesus washing feet on the way through. All the way through this gospel, we said, come and see Jesus. So as we come and see Jesus again in this passage, let's see him again turn the world upside down and call us to live his upside down kind of life, his cross-shaped, servant-like love kind of life. I'll read again a little bit from the beginning of that passage. Verse 1 of chapter 13, it was just before the Passover festival. And remember, that's the celebration of God's rescue of his people, their escape from Egypt. And they always sacrificed a lamb whose blood was spilled to save the people. There's a lot of links going on with what Jesus is about to do. And so Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave the world and go to the Father. And having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, that he had come from God and was returning to God. Now, if you were writing this or reading it for the first time, how would you expect this to go next? Jesus, fully aware of who he is, the power and authority that's come from God, his identity as God's son, the reality, where am I going? I'm returning to the Father's side. He knew all that, and he knew someone was going to betray him. If you knew all that, what would you do? What would you do with that kind of power and knowledge? What does Jesus do? Just notice again how verse 4 starts. It says, so. Not then, but so. Because he knows who he is and where he's going, because of his divine power, so, therefore, he begins to wash their feet. You find that strange? Strange link? Because he knows his power, he acts the servant. Knowing that his divine God there is a man, because of this, he takes the role of the servant. On one hand, it's kind of surprising, it's jarring to us, but on the other hand, if we've been watching Jesus all the way through the story so far, this shouldn't be surprising at all. Jesus is just doing what he's always been doing. making enormous claims about his identity and showing sacrificial love to those right in front of him. You know, if you look over Jesus' teaching through the gospel, he hasn't shied away from claiming his divinity. I am the light, I am the bread, I am the living water, I am the Son from the Father. When people fall down and worship Jesus, he doesn't say, no, don't do that, I'm just a man, or I'm just a messenger. That's what the angels do, that's what everyone else does in the Bible. Don't worship me. Jesus says, no, fair enough, you should actually worship me. This is right. He makes the highest possible claims of divinity. But his actions have never been what you expect. He eats with tax collectors and sinners. He associates with the Samaritans, with the unclean. He serves rather than being served. He's always been showing this upside-down kingdom. Divine power, yet full of mercy and love for the lowest of the low. And this kind of foot-washing moment is kind of the pinnacle, or the pinnacle so far until we get to the cross. Kind of caps it off. We've got to hold these two things together in Jesus, the loftiness of his claims, his lowly actions. As I said, I think this is a real clear sign that he is who he says he is. Think about it, right? If someone has these high claims without the actions, who are they? I mean, they're like a religious kind of fraud saying, look, I'm just going to build this empire, build these followers. Or if someone just has the kind of the serving actions, but doesn't claim this deity and power, well, they're just a teacher of love, which is lovely, but that's all they are. But Jesus does both. He claims to be God, demonstrates perfect servant love. He's not just a religious fraudster out for himself. If he were, why go to the cross? He's not just a nice teacher of love. If he were, why claim the God bit? But if they are true and you can hold them together, then with your head you go, wow, this is kind of amazing that he is this person. And that's in your head, but in your heart you say, if you kind of look at him, you go, wow, that's beautiful. Can you just imagine being with someone like this? This is kind of word picture which I stole from the preacher Tim Keller, who stole from someone else he didn't know where it came from. I don't know how to get to it. Can we go to the next slide, please, Craig? This is a word picture of Jesus, unlike anyone else, holding these beautiful realities together. Imagine being with someone like this. In Jesus Christ, you see tenderness without weakness, boldness without harshness, humility without any uncertainty, indeed towering confidence, unbending conviction, yet complete approachability, insistence on truth, but always bathed in love, power without insensitivity, integrity without rigidity, passion without prejudice. Wouldn't it be nice to be like that? Nice to be with someone like that. Nice to follow someone like that. It's a beautiful picture. And I think what we see as we see Jesus in this moment, and we keep seeing it, is it's this absolute love. Absolute love for his disciples, for those, for the world, for the people. Let's just kind of dig into the scale of Jesus' love in this moment, right? His capacity for love, how great a love he is showing. Now, you know, just the foot washing in itself is big enough, demonstration, but on top of that, think of the context that he's in. I mean, imagine you were Jesus. You know the next day you're going to be strung up on a Roman cross. You're going to face the indescribable physical pain of the cross. And more than that, you're going to face the unimaginable spiritual pain of separation from your Father that you've never known before. Look, if that was me, that would be big in my mind in that moment. I don't think I had the presence of mind in that moment to kind of teach in depth. I wouldn't have the capacity to show extraordinary love. You'd be like, I've got a lot going on, guys. I can just have a quiet meal. I've got a lot to think about. I'm not really up for it, maybe. I think just my capacity for love is so tiny in comparison to Jesus. I noticed that even while writing this sermon, I told one of my kids to kind of, stop disturbing me, move away, please, I'm trying to do something important here. I couldn't fit in the task I had to do with considering their needs at the same time. My bucket of love is so small. And yet, hours away from the greatest and hardest work Jesus ever did, anyone ever did, hours from the cross, he kneels down to wash their feet. He comforts and teaches them. See how he loves them. See how big his love is. And look at the scale of his love this way as well. Sometimes I have trouble showing love to the people I love, or even the people I like. My selfishness gets in the way. But see what Jesus does, how he shows love in this moment. Do you catch verse 2? Next slide, thanks. In the middle of this description of Jesus' love and power, it points out Judas is there, the one about to betray him. And when Jesus washes feet, he washes as Judas's, doesn't skip him. Jesus washes Judas's feet. His love extends to the betrayer, Judas. And Peter was there. And as we read, Jesus knew that in just a few hours, Peter would deny even knowing him. Jesus washes Peter's feet. His love extends to the unfaithful Peter. And every other disciple in the room who's been walking with him and calling him Lord and Master for the last 3 years, every single one of them will desert him in just a few hours' time. And he washes the foot of every flaky disciple there because he loves them. Can you see the depth of the love of Jesus? I mean, having loved them all this time, it says he loved them to the end. Not because they're lovely, not because they had it all together. He loves them because he loves them, because they're his. Again, what an image of God who is love. Constant, loving kindness for his continually flaky people. That's the Old Testament in a few words. And, us, all right? See how he loved them. See how he loved them, even us. Even us in our betrayal, in our denying of him, in our flaky unfaithfulness. See how he loves. Loves to the end. Not because we have it together, not because we understand everything. He loves us in our bumbling uncertainty. And if you want to see bumbling uncertainty, we look at Peter in this moment. This is busted. Let's just keep going. We see Jesus come to Peter, and Peter says, no, you can't wash my feet. Jesus says, I have to wash your feet, or you have no part with me. Fine, wash all of me. Peter says, no, just need your feet washed now. And I think here we kind of get a few of these layers, these onion layers of symbolism of the washing. Jesus saying, unless I wash you, you can have no part with me. He's not talking about feet, like you have to have clean feet to hang out. He's not talking about that washing. He's talking about the washing clean he's about to achieve, not with spilled water, but with spilled blood. It's not dealing with the stench of your feet that makes me not want to be near you. It's the stench of our sin that means we can't be with God. That's what he's dealing with here. This is the washing he's providing. And Peter says, wash all of me. And Jesus says, no, you only need that once, but your feet need washing. And I mean, there's lots here. Maybe he's kind of saying, your cleansing is once and for all on the cross, but you do keep coming to me for cleansing and living in repentance and faith. So much there. Maybe you can dig more into that in your growth groups this week. I don't want to dig too much there. I'm not even going to dig into the Judas bit or the Peter bit. I want to finish up thinking about this command to love like Jesus, and how that extends to even us. Hopping down to verse 31. When he was gone, that is when Judas had gone to betray him, Jesus said, now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself and will glorify him at once. It's a bit circular, you need a diagram to figure that out. But like just the key point, this is the moment that the Son of Man is glorified and that God is glorified. You kind of think, no, isn't that when they kind of bust out of the grave and the angels are there and it's the sun's shining? No. Here's the moment of glorification, in this absolute servitude, in this moment of betrayal. God is most glorified as he shows his most absolute love. God's glory is in this serving love. It's glorious. Jesus continues, my children, I will be with you. I'm going to put it down. You do it, Craig. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You'll look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I'm going, you cannot come. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. And I won't read it again, but before he said it quite explicitly, I've washed your feet, you should wash each other's, back in verse 12 to 17. I'm the master and the teacher, and I do this. You, the student, the disciple, should walk in my steps. Love like I love. Love like I love. And not like if you feel like it. A new command I give you. Love one another as I have loved you. And this is how people will know that you're mine. And I guess then the application is pretty simple. Love like Jesus. 3 words. You can remember that. Go do it. Easy, right? Simple. Love in selfless service. Put others' needs first. This is not mushy romantic love. This is love that picks up a towel and takes a knee and serves. I think it takes half a second to realize how hard this actually is. I know for myself, my selfishness, my pride, my entitlement gets in the way of my love for others. And all kinds of things. We might think, I've kind of done my time, I've loved others a lot, and now that they tend to love me, maybe I will only love them if they love me first, if I'm shown love. And look, I don't want to love. Loving people is hard. It's putting yourself out there. It's kind of saying, here, I'm going to do something for you. And it's not always received in the way that you want it to be received. And that hurts. We've been hurt before. We don't want to be hurt again. It's hard. We've been let down by people who should have loved us, who should have served us and protected us better. We've been betrayed and abandoned. And it can be easy to wall ourselves off to giving or showing or even receiving love. What do we do with this command of Jesus? So simple and difficult all at once. I think, as always, it's kind of, we can't do it under our own strength. I'm going to, work up some love in myself and then show someone. I don't think that's how it kind of just works. Thankfully, we're not alone in this. We have Jesus. We see Jesus. He walks with us. He helps us love. And Jesus, he's the one who was betrayed and abandoned. And who showed love and it wasn't received as it should have been. He knows what that's all like. So just see Jesus. See Jesus again, and in this, only in Jesus, take these steps of love. See the one who loves even those who betray and abandon him, who loves even us. See the one who loves so much that he kneels not just to the ground, but he submits all the way to death. He kneels into the depths of hell so we can be freed from death and separation from God. See how he loves us. And if we see how he loves, only in that do we have the power to love ourselves. What do you see when you see Jesus? What do you make of the foot-washing God who calls you to love because he loves you? I think we just kind of, the way forward, you sort of watch your heart a bit in this week. Watch how you love, or maybe when you struggle to do it. There'll be times when you think someone's less important than you. We don't like saying it out loud, but we think it. The people that we find it hard to love, how can we take steps of showing Jesus-shaped love, particularly for one another in the family of Christ? Friends, we are the ones who Jesus has washed clean by his love, by his shedding of his blood, washing us from our sins. He has restored us to God. We are the loved, we are the washed. And in this, and only in this, we can love and wash each other's feet, so to speak. We can follow the commands of our foot-washing Lord. I'm going to pray for us.